what's going to be? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys, this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Today we have the Northern all the way from Toronto, Canada on the podcast. And in this one, we dive deep in their brand new song, Usurper, and go in deep on the story of them being dropped from their record label and how it impacted the song about not being taken advantage of. We also talk about the growing Canadian hardcore scene post-pandemic and have a lot of fun doing everything in between. So are you guys ready for a great one? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. Here in the United States, I am going north of the border into Canada to bring you this incredible band that someone sent me an email about. Check them out, and we're having them come on the podcast. Their brand new song, Usurper, just came out as of September 8th. You guys can go check it out. If you are a fan of a band like Fit for a King or Currents or Era, this is going to be a band for you to check out. So perfect time to do it right now. So please welcome Adam, Eric, Jordan, and Michael from the band The Northern to the podcast. So gentlemen, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Hey, yo.
Yo, what up?
What up,
What's
guys?
up, man?
Hey, I'm doing good. Happy to have you guys on. And when I was going through everything, getting everything I could get about your band, going through the brand new song, Usurper, one thing that caught my eye, of course, is going through the song, I looked at what you guys said about the message behind the song, what the meaning behind it was. Of course, I always like to go in and try and find my own meaning in there, see where it comes without looking at it. So when it came to the meaning of the song, specifically on this one, where were you guys going with this? Because I had an idea of where to go with it as well. And I just want to kind of show how everything kind of connects between what you guys experience and what us as, the music listener experiences as well.
Well, I'll let you go.
You want me to go first? It was either you or me, I think.
Yeah, I know. I'll let you go since you were in the interview. So
that's fine. We can both share a little tidbit, but I think that it's definitely from a specific experience that we had with a former record label, but the overarching message that I personally would want anybody listening to take, because not everybody has been in a band and been screwed over by a label, although it does happen a lot, is just to not really let anybody take advantage of you. And just to kind of stand your ground and, keep some of that integrity that you have, whether it's in a relationship, at your job, or if you are in the music industry or an artist of any type, I feel like it could be applied to almost anything, but specifically it was with our former label, Tragic Hero Records. And if Mike, you want to elaborate a bit on that.
yeah, it's just to not let anyone discourage you and take you down, and to not stop you from doing what you do best at. And in our case, it's being creative and having that, because we were definitely on the fence of whether we were going to continue doing this, because this band's been going on for over 10 years now. And so it was a matter of do we do it or not? Nothing's working out. The current release at the time just wasn't hitting. And then we decided, you know what, fuck it. Let's not let those things hold us back. Let's move forward and let's take this chance and let's see where it takes us. And that chance was us flying down to Nashville and doing this EP. And then the first day we were there, at the end of the day, we all knew that this couldn't go anywhere. So it's just an inspiration for those to not be discouraged and let down, and to continue forward, especially with your creative work. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a job. It doesn't have to be the music business. It can be anything. It can be a relationship. It can be your family. It can be just your neighbor that's pissing you off. But yeah.
Well, you think about it from anybody's perspective as well, from any song even you guys have listened to that you guys have loved throughout the years. You listen to those songs and there are certain messages behind them where, of course, whatever artist wrote them, whatever artist created that song, they're going to have a very specific instance, a very specific time that they're reflecting on, that they're going to be bringing into that song, and they're bringing the emotion to it. Now, you didn't go through that at all, or when it comes to what you guys went through with your old record label and kind of in that same sense being taken advantage of, you're trying to find a way to express a song about breaking free from that and not letting that happen ever again. From our standpoint as the listener, we didn't go through exactly that, but there are plenty of times where in other relationships that we have, whether it's with your job, whether it's with your family, whether it's with a significant other, with friends, it doesn't necessarily matter, but whatever relationship you had where someone has been taking advantage of you and you're ready to stand up and say no more, those are the moments where those songs really stand out. It's because we can take that core emotion, boil it down to the absolute center, and then take what you guys experience, feel it, put it into our own experiences, and connect with it that way.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like
so
it's a pretty angry, like short and sweet, heavy song. So we're happy people are vibing with it already, and we weren't really sure what the response would be because it's been about 8 months since we dropped our last single back in January. And this was the first song we've dropped I don't even know when, with no clean vocals, because I usually do some singing. So this is like, we were kind of like, oh, I wonder what people are going to think. But yeah, no, it's been really positive. So.
But wouldn't you want a song like this to not have any sort of clean vocals when you're really putting this further anger forward there? You're putting this passion, this energy to break free from somebody, to stand up for yourself, to stand up for your self-respect and say, I ain't gonna let you, take advantage of me. I'm not gonna take shit from you anymore. If you had clean vocals in there, it would have to be in a way of like, letting this thing kind of wash over and understand on your standpoint as the listener what you're going through and why you're doing this. But if you're going to have that full force already, that knowledge and that idea in your brain, you're going to want to go full force with straight unclean vocals with that aggressiveness to really impact this meaning fully. It's the way to go about it, honestly.
Yeah. And we're glad people have kind of picked up on that, because there've been a bunch of really great comments about Mike's vocals and how huge his vocals sound, or how mean he sounds and pissed off he sounds, which is what we wanted, right? So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when we were working on this song at home, well, I know we wrote most of it in Nashville, but Mike and I had tossed around the idea of doing a song with no chorus, because a lot of our songs follow the same structure. So we're like, hey, let's do something heavy and kind of just like, then maybe another song we could do is more featuring Adam, but then we could do another one that's really heavy with Mike. So, we could kind of contrast things that way. And I thought it was a cool idea. Plus, kind of always wanted to write a diss track. So
the first track,
big old middle finger.
Yeah.
That was the first track too. We worked as a band to its entirety on the lyrics as a whole too, and in the moment. Like, it was very like, we were on a timeline, so we had to get it done by the next day before we started tracking. And then in the moment of tracking, also writing in that moment. But so it was a cool experience, because we really got to get our thoughts as a whole together, and with the producer who helped spark the idea of the song.
Well, when it comes down to something,
were flowing.
Yeah, I would say juices were flowing, but when it comes really down to it and you think about that idea where all of you are working on the lyrics together, it works in the same standpoint of, as a band, you went all through this together. So you all understand the emotions that were going through there. You understand how everything felt. You understand the timeline of one spot to the next and how you all progressed with it. So when it comes to making sure that this song has those lyrics and has that flow behind it, both lyrically and instrumentally, working on it as a tandem, as a team, makes the most amount of sense.
Yeah, exactly. And
so now,
we don't always get to do that either, because we don't all live in the same city. So for us to all be together in the studio like that, it was kind of a new way of writing for us, but it really worked out.
It was truly like there was magic happening, and you hear that a lot. You don't really understand it until you experience it, and that's what happened in that moment, especially because we were on a timeline. We only had a week in Nashville, so we had to get it done. It's not like we can go fly back there. We're not made of money, and we had used the band money to get us there. So.
Not made of metalcore money, not yet.
Yeah, and the metalcore money literally just got us there.
We have tens of dollars.
Yeah,
tens of dollars.
100 air.
I would pull out my wallet and be like, oh, here's another tens of dollars for you guys, but I don't have tens of dollars on me right now, and my wallet is in the other room.
That would actually be like 20 of our dollars because we're Canadian and our
Yes,
exchange
exactly.
rate is absolute dog shit.
Oh, I forgot about that too. Yeah, so
when we were living in Nashville that week, we spent $20 on beer. We're looking at a $40 bill. We were just getting savaged.
Yep.
there's like what? This is so expensive. No.
Yeah.
It looks cheaper to us because everything's lower, but it's not.
I'll say at that point in time, I should probably start my own recording studio, even though I can't record for what. Just buy a big open plot of land, just build a studio in the middle of northern Wisconsin, where if you guys want to go to the bar and drink and get beers for $2 a piece, go for it.
Exactly.
See
that Natty Ice.
Natty Ice, get your Busch Light, get your Keystone Light, get whatever you want. Old style, go for it, man. Just go for
it. Nothing wrong with a Pilsner.
Nothing wrong with Pilsner. Now, I do want to ask about this specifically. So when it came to Usurper with that specific story, that specific incident that really sparked this whole entire song, can you give me the story behind what happened? If you want to go into full detail, that's fine. If you want to just give the synopsis, that's fine. I'm letting you guys have free reign over this. I just want to get a better idea of what exactly happened that led to this song.
Well, it was a long time coming. It was definitely a long time coming because we disbanded Tragic Hero in 2018. We released our single Samsara. That's our last release through them in 2018. It was actually the first track with Mike. So it's actually his fault. That's actually
it's entirely no. Once you find out, it's entirely my fault.
Like, oh, fuck this guy. But no, we released Samsara. It was doing really well. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric or Jordan or Mike, but I think, weren't we like going on tour with Pangea?
Yeah.
We just finished for Pangea. We just announced the Sleepwaker tour that day.
And I was asking about, I was asking about merch. It wasn't even about like the state of the band or status with the label. Like, we thought things were going really well. Like, Samsara, like I said, was doing just as well as Usurper is doing already. So yeah, then I think I emailed our A&R guy about merch. And this is the funniest part, because the guy that we used to keep in contact with, this guy Eric, who doesn't work for them anymore, shout out Eric Held, he's a homie, didn't even know that this was happening. But Tommy and Randy, the two, well, Tommy owns Tragic Hero, who we had barely even heard from since signing, all of a sudden hops in this email about merch. And like, instead of replying about anything to do with that, it was literally just like, sorry guys, we're gonna have to let you go. It was literally like that short and sweet, and we were kind of all like, what? And I remember screenshotting that and sending it to Eric, the A&R guy, and he was even like, dude, what the fuck? Like, he didn't even know this was happening.
And then a bunch of people who worked there all quit too.
Yeah, our publicist Kathleen quit. I think she quit before this happened though.
They dropped a ton of bands like in that area.
They dropped like half their roster. It wasn't even just us.
I think we're the only band that didn't break up though.
True.
Invent Animate is the only other one.
Well, they didn't get dropped. They left.
A lot of bands did not get paid either.
Yeah.
I remember one of us telling this story to Caleb from Invent Animate, and him and Keaton knew what was going on, and I guess they kind of jumped ship before they could get fucked over. I don't know that though. I don't really know what happened with them per se, but yeah, I think they kind of caught wind of what was happening. So that was back in 2018. We hadn't really written anything about that time. And we knew Usurper was like a really angry, pissed off sounding song. And Mike and all of us had always kind of wanted to write, like Eric said, a bit of a diss track for Tragic Hero screwing us over so much. They still owe us money, by the way.
We're gonna answer
in a
emails.
couple years.
We've been chasing for that money since right before we left Nashville, so that we had a bank account in Nashville, so we didn't have to use our money. But they never got back to us. So.
Yeah, we've been chasing basically since Samsara came out for any revenue after Samsara was released. So
no explanation
other than emails with our songs in them.
Sorry, bye. Like no explanation, and we heard from them once after that. They gave us one payment, but that was a couple years ago. So
that was a shocker. We didn't even see that coming.
Okay, now I was expecting the story to go on like a creative difference way. I wasn't expecting to go where, hey, we're going on tour. We're asking about merch. Oh, we're getting dropped now. What the fuck? Like I wasn't expecting that.
It was like a kick to the teeth.
But they only have 2 bands on their roster, from what I understand, 2 or 3 bands. So I think they got rid of the majority of their roster there because I think they just, I don't know. It seems like they don't have
an active label. They actually made a post about our full length that we released through them like a couple months back, saying like happy whatever anniversary to Solstice, and we were like, wow, didn't one of us actually comment on the status being like, give us our money? Like, thanks, now give us our money.
You can buy our physical CD from them for $1.
No, it's back up to $10 now.
Is it? Oh, yeah. I thought we were just not cheap.
Go to our band camp.
We were almost a dollar store band.
We were just Canadian dollar beer.
Need any more of our royalties? Go to our band camp if you're going to buy that. Yeah, but yeah, that's what happened.
Go to Northern's Bandcamp and buy anything from there to make sure that they're the ones that get paid and not some record label still holding their money hostage. But now it makes so much more sense when it comes to Usurper, why it has such this angrier tone behind it, and why people are going to be able to relate to it, even with that exact story, because there are so many people that over the past couple of years, with what's gone on with the pandemic, with everything that's gone on with the economy, especially over the last couple of years, if you're here in the U.S., anything since 2022 with inflation going like crazy and all these different price points that are being that are struggles, people are over here, they're losing jobs left and right because companies are just straight up downsizing and they're doing it with no warning. So it's something that just takes you completely by surprise, and you feel like, you've worked hard, you're doing the best job you can, you're trying to do what you can for your family, for yourself, in order to make sure that you can progress in your life and stay comfortable and happy. The most important thing is staying happy. And then all of a sudden the rug just gets pulled out from under you because someone decided to make a decision that is directly impacting. It's something that is terrible, but at the exact same point in time, people are going to be able to take what exactly your story is and relate to it in their own right. There are so many different places where you're being taken advantage of. Whether it is your job, or the fact that you should be getting paid more, and you present that argument, and then nothing happens, and trying to find another job, it's just even more as difficult compared to that. Whether you're in a relationship with somebody and they're just, constantly taking advantage of the situation, mooching off of you, or just manipulating you in every step of the way, changing the idea. And if you're trying to, get further, constantly pushing the goalposts further and further back every time you get close to them, so that you have to continue to go forward and forward and forward, even though you've already met those initial goals 4 or 5 times over. Whether it's someone with your family that's draining you, whether it's someone with a friendship that is just a friend that is keeping you around consistently, just constantly using you in all these aspects because they don't want to lose you, but they don't want to be anything more than friends with you. So it just all adds in there. And so many of us have gone through stuff like that and more. So when we listen to what you guys went through with your record label, with just getting dropped out of nowhere and still having to fight for your freaking royalties, which you absolutely deserve, we can relate to it. We can feel that anger coming through the song with the unclean vocals, with the heavier backing, and with this more forceful, driven style behind it, where we just feel like we're angry, we're tired of being taken advantage of, because at this point in time, not only is it a condemnation on what has been done to us, but it's us staying up for our own self-worth and self-respect at the same time.
Absolutely.
Couldn't have put it better myself, sir.
I just went on a full-on preaching rant right there.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Like I had just joined the band. I had just dropped that song with them. We did our first tour, our second tour, and then we get dropped right when we're about to announce that first thing. Adam immediately calls me while I'm at work just to reassure me that it's not me that caused this issue. And I'm confused.
Absolutely was.
I'm like, this is the most successful of the bands at this point. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? What did I do? And to this day, I know it wasn't me because that song is our most played song today. So they can get fucked.
Solstice has actually like nearly hit the same amount of plays as, or sorry, Samsara has nearly hit the same amount of kind of plays and number wise as Solstice did as a whole. So the whole 10-song record, Samsara has done nearly as good on its own. So that is a good song. I like it.
I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day with being on in the music industry. Like this story, as shitty as it is, like it honestly probably won't surprise a lot of people either. Especially people who've been doing this and trying to be in a band. But yeah, it's like you said, it's still never a good feeling, especially when you think things are going well. Like it would be completely different if like for some reason we just shit the bed and we're not delivering or anything like that. So yeah, it was an even bigger kick in the teeth. So yeah, we're glad we could finally vent a little bit in this song, and it's also just like a generally pissed off song for anybody that's being taken advantage of.
I don't think your story is going to surprise anyone in the music industry either, due to the fact that a lot of bands have gone through the same, if not similar situations with other record labels, but it still doesn't discount the fact that what has happened is just totally freaking stupid, because when you look at Solstice and you look at Samsara, well, Samsara basically doing as well as that album did as a whole, and with that song still being on the Spotify progressive metal playlist to this day. And that's the song that you release. That's all of a sudden there's more stock behind the band. There's more of an engine behind it. There's more momentum that's being built up. And the label's just like, nah, not worth it. If you're not giving bands and if you're not giving bands room to grow and room to try different things, and when they do try something and it absolutely hits and it works, and all of a sudden you just drop them right then and there. One thing that pisses me off the most is, how many times over the past 10, 15 years have we heard, the tastemakers and the gatekeepers say rock is dead, rock and metal are dead, and all they're doing is playing the same shit over and over and over and over again, and they're not wanting to take a chance on any new band whatsoever. When bands start really like showing prominence and showing that they're able to do this stuff, it's very rare still for people to get behind them. We're seeing it more now because we're seeing what happened with Bring Me the Horizon over the past 10 years, with them experimenting more. The absolute meteoric rise of Falling in Reverse from their 2017 album to where they are right now. What's going on with Bad Omens? What's going on with Sleep Token? What's going on with I Prevail? What's going on with Spirit Box? There are so many more bands that are doing so many more new and incredible things. And when they start to hit, it's like, okay, now when they actually hit on their own, that's when people start to get behind. That's when the labels start to get more behind them. That's when the industry starts to get behind them. But if we're not getting behind and supporting these bands that are upcoming and growing in the scene, then nothing ever happens. When it comes to heavy music specifically, why do you think Australian bands are coming through like full force all the time? Because they're getting so much support from their whole country as a scene, to when they're coming over to like the Europe or coming over to America, they're already got all this backing behind them, and it's a lot easier for people over here to say, oh, they got a lot of listens over in Australia. Australians love heavy music. If they're going to be supporting them like Polaris, Amity Affliction, Make Them Suffer, Alpha Wolf, I want to go check them out and see what's happening. I want to go support them because, hell, Australia's supporting them when they're local. Why aren't we?
Yeah, those Aussies don't miss, really. Like it is pretty crazy. How many
I've never heard a bad Australian band,
especially in the metal genre.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They started slow. It's like Parkway Drive, My Children, My Bride, all those bands, and then slowly it just more bands. And you got Northland, and you got Alpha Wolf, and then now you got Make Me Suffer, and all these bands like Midi Affliction, everything, and it just keeps going.
Repping I Killed the Prom Queen.
I Killed the Prom Queen. Yeah, that's what.
Yes!
Jonah Weinhofen for life.
Can't forget about those guys. Yeah,
that's what I meant. I Killed the Prom Queen. But it's just it's the support.
Sure, and it's even harder. Like certain areas where we live too in Canada and in our province of Ontario, some of the scenes are pretty dead, especially since the pandemic. We have seen a pretty cool resurgence of a couple cities though, that did, I guess, benefit out of a lot of stuff closing down and people not being able to go to shows for years and everything like that. But like you said, metal in general, whatever subgenre we're talking, is very gatekeeping, right? Like it's kind of hard to break through sometimes. So yeah. Like even a show we have coming up next month. I remember when the promoter was asking, like, do you just want like the usual bands to be on this with you, or there are some newer, like basically kids, like up and coming bands that like 18, 19-year-old metal kids that are just wanting to play a show, and like they'll bring their whole crew out. And I was like, yeah, put them on, them open, because I'm old as fuck, we're all old as fuck, but like we were all at one point, right? So yeah, it's important to definitely try and foster like the belief of like holding each other up and supporting the local bands in the scene instead of like competing with each other, even though it doesn't happen all the time. But like,
yeah, I know
it can get pretty cutthroat sometimes. But
no, I'm aware. I know it doesn't happen all the time, but at the exact same time, it's the more we're able to do that, we're able to focus in on that, then you create this scene, you create these little local scenes that are really going to be supportive of these different bands. And it adds more of this stock and more of this camaraderie between different bands, between different artists. And it's just this supportive nature. And when it comes to fans, when it comes to just even bands growing up as well, not trying to push everybody down and try and climb over them. Because if you're in a local scene and all of a sudden, one band starts rising, hell, everyone get behind them, because then the scene itself grows as they continue to grow. And then everyone else benefits from the other bands in the scene. They get more noticed. The fans get,
exactly
behind it. They get, not only does the scene grow and better bands come to town, but the bands that you like that are in town continue to grow as well. One thing that you mentioned, though, that I really wanted to ask about, because I have never asked about this on the podcast, when it comes to the Canadian scene, especially where you guys are right now, because of what happened with COVID, what all happened with that when it came to why these scenes aren't as big as they maybe once were, why they're just struggling to get back up and going. Because I know that kind of happened here in the US, but I think if I remember correctly, what happened in Canada, because of the restrictions, it was a lot tighter and it lasted a lot longer. So what's going on in the Canadian scene right now, man? Give us the scoop.
So actually, we're having a huge blow up in this scene right now. Basically, better bands are coming, like way better bands. All the local bands, they're not dog shit anymore. They're actually good. And that's impressive. So now we're seeing a lot of press on this, a lot of the people covering the scene. And it's not just the hardcore scene. So it started off with the hardcore scene really blowing up here. That scene is so strong. And that scene is literally the people from the old metalcore scene when Attack was blowing up, like the old Burn Horizon days. That scene is now the hardcore scene, basically. And now that thing is popping, and that's strong as hell. And that's influenced a lot of metalcore bands to even mix into the hardcore scene. So now we're getting the influx of metalcore and hardcore collaborating together. A little less gatekeeping, but they're still gatekeeping, obviously. But what we're seeing is a resurgence, like a band called Pneumonia Breath from here. Basically, they're one of the only bands to sell out their show, and before the show sold out for this one company down here, last weekend. And that's a huge thing to have happened. But what we're seeing is a lot of people are going to shows, people are more excited. And frankly, I'm going to shows more than I was pre-pandemic now. And I love that because it's exciting and everyone's just stoked to be out again. And I think because we were on lockdown for so fucking long and our restrictions were so strict, that we're more into it to be going out now and doing these things and supporting the scene. And yeah, if there was a lot of pent-up anger built up and a lot of people had a lot of time to think and sit down and figure out their craft better, and basically we're seeing it come out now. And basically, I think Canada is going to be an uprising scene for music, for metal especially, because of what's happened. So
the bands are so good, I have to limit my beer intake and practice my instrument.
Yeah, before then it's all
like Over the
Yeah.
pandemic, we lost a lot of local bands. So a lot of them just kind of gave up or didn't want to keep going, or they just kind of moved on with their lives. And then a lot of them kind of restarted new bands. So we've seen like kind of like a slower start back into the scene, but the new bands that are coming out are great. So it just took a little
Yeah.
like a slow train to get rolling the scene down here, I think, in
And it's a
comparison.
lot of the older successful bands that are coming back too. Like the members are just joining up with other members and stuff like that. So people who we thought were gone forever are actually coming back. So now you're getting a really progressive growth of older musicians who used to do well that disappeared. So
Yeah.
the spark is basically.
Yeah, that was one thing I was a little worried about too, just given the fact that I know what happened with COVID, especially here being the US, where for like a year it was just everything was dead. And then when it came to just everything getting back going in the scene, it was people started going back out to shows, people started really getting into it once again. And there was this fever pitch that was behind it. And now we're, if it wasn't for that, like, bad, like Spirit Box wouldn't have hit right away once everything started jumping back in from a live standpoint. Bad Omens wouldn't have nearly hit as much. Of course, they hit online, especially with Just Pretend blowing up on TikTok. But then when it came to the fact that that first headlining tour they did in 2022, where they sold out the whole entire thing, they had to basically upgrade every single venue for more tickets. And then they sold that out again. It added so much more push to it. And what I was concerned about going with the Canadian scene was especially, being neighbors with you guys and seeing some of the things that were happening there. I didn't know the level, like the exact restrictions and the exact things that you guys were put under. I just knew that they were a lot harsher than what we had to go through down here, and they lasted a lot longer. So when you have something like that happen, I understand where the scene took a little bit of time to get back going. But the best thing that I heard you guys say was, especially from the hardcore side of things, really seeing that grow where the bands are coming back and they're better and they sound fantastic, is that, you're seeing everyone kind of come together, really support that once again, kind of take that anger and that aggression out right in that moment, but create better music, create a more camaraderie style scene, so that maybe the next 3, 4, 5 years, we start seeing this revolution of hardcore music coming out from Canada. We'll call it the Northern Invasion, basically. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, we're going to have Furnace Fest down here in the States, where it's like heavy music and like heavy hip hop and whatnot. It's all going to be just like hardcore bands just having a blast. We're going to start our own hardcore festival in Canada, literally call it Northern Invasion, even though I think Danny Wimmer Presents has that name. We might be able to buy it from them at some point in time.
Sure.
And then just go nuts with it.
And like we were also like during the pandemic, like there was illegal shows going on, like where shows weren't supposed to be happening. Bands were just doing it anyways. So we had a lot of Askapunk happening, which was actually super cool to go to, even though like it was kind of bad voodoo, but it was still like it was reassuring, especially at those times where you're just like, is life going to come back to normal? Like I was working at the record label and I'd be talking to my friends who work at the label as well. And they're at the point where just like, we're never touring again. We're fucked. We're just stuck.
Yeah.
That's it. There was no hope. And then we started seeing these, illegal shows happening. But I think that's honestly what kind of kicked up the surge. And but we had a hardcore scene though. Like it was the start of all that, I'd say. Not to pinpoint them, but they were definitely the founding ones through the pandemic that really brought it back. And they got everyone excited.
Well, as Jack Black said in School of Rock, no way, that is so punk rock. But it makes sense. It is punk rock in the exact same standpoint where you're going out, you're going against authority, you're going against the establishment to get your message out there and do whatever you want to do. That's one thing I always love about the band Silly Goose here in the United States, where they'll just go around different places and play shows literally in the street right after festivals or right after big venues. They went and followed Highly Suspect around for a whole entire tour and played outside the show after Highly Suspect was done. And it's like, and they did it at Danny Wimmer Presents festivals as well. They just played outside to the point where DWP decided that they were going to be pissed off and they were going to actually go out and check them. Like, we got to kick these guys out. But they went out and listened to what they were doing. They're like, we don't want to stop this. This is cool as all hell. So now Silly Goose is always on Danny Wimmer Presents festivals. At the end of that Highly Suspect tour, where was Silly Goose? Silly Goose got the opening spot for that last night. Like, they actually played the actual show with them. And I love the idea behind it because it shows this more that you can still do this stuff. That it gives that energy behind there. You're seeing people take the initiative, and it's something that the scene can rally around, especially coming post-pandemic when things were shut down, things were restricted, and live music was going to be the last thing that was going to come back. And you're still seeing people do it. I went to a couple of shows that definitely should not have happened in 2020, but that be damned, I wanted to see some live music, and I was going to do it.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
I know it's great to hear that, because you don't hear about bands doing that, like kind of chasing like a show and then playing after the show as often anymore. Like I know we have a band called Bill Scarlet from here that did that with Warped Tour, and then Warped Tour actually eventually just put them on the fucking thing. So like you don't hear about that anymore. So that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I know that happened with a Void right at the end of Warped Tour's run, because they just started just showing up and just playing shows actually at Warped Tour until they got actually invited in for a couple of days. And now it's like, you look at the band of Void, they just did a run all the way through Canada with 0936 and Wage War. And it was one of the most insane things you'd ever see, just because that band is utterly ridiculous. Sounds great, but their energy is utterly ridiculous to the point where you're going to see their merch guy, if they have like a screen behind them, you're going to see their backdrop, not like some video package or their logo. It's going to be their merch guy playing Fortnite.
I like his style.
But I do want to go back to one thing that Jordan said that really stuck out to me. Is like, I got to limit my beer intake and play my instrument better, given how the scene is growing. That is a fantastic way to put it, because it shows that, there's so many other great bands that are out there that it makes you want to continue to get better. It makes you want to continue to grow your craft, because it's just motivating for everyone in that scene to keep growing, to get to the point where all of a sudden, like I said, 4 or 5 years down the line, there's going to be so many hardcore bands coming out of Canada, and it's just going to be utterly amazing, because it's going to be like every single week, every single month, there's going to be a new band from Canada that we have to check out, because they put out an absolute banger of a song, banger of an EP, banger of an album, and, they're going to end up going on tour with Alpha Wolf and Knocked Loose and Kubla Khan, because why the hell not? This is freaking awesome.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
the
lots of great Canadian bands, whether they're up and coming or already kind of established, like the dudes in Brand of Sacrifice.
Oh yeah.
Fellow Torontonians. You already mentioned Spirit Box.
Counterparts is going to take over the world.
Counterparts already seems to have, like Carcosa from out from British Columbia. They're killing it lately too. So yeah, lots of cool stuff to check out coming from here. Yep. Angel Maker is another one.
Comeback Kid, yeah.
Even Cancer Bats are still trucking.
R.I.P. Daggermouth.
Oh shit.
Yeah, Cancer Bats are still trucking. Yeah, Alexa on Fire, they're back.
Protest the Hero.
Monine.
Monine, yeah, they're gonna have a comeback. We don't know when. Something's gonna happen. But.
Did you ever listen to Monine, Kevin, or have you ever heard of them?
I've heard them once or twice. Never listened to them though.
They had the split with Alexa on Fire.
Oh, Mike's got the
Legends
record.
to us.
Yeah, mine's somewhere in a thing back there.
They hail from around the same area as us and Alexis on Fire. So yeah, there it is.
Switcheroo. Great record.
They're a dope band.
As I tried bringing Alexa on Fire to the podcast, and that just didn't happen yet.
Make that happen.
That's the key. Yet. I mean, there's certain bands I didn't think I was going to get on the podcast this year, and I made it happen. Hell, I made it happen with Seven Dust. I made it happen with August Burns Red. I made it happen with From Ashes to New. I had no idea that I was going to get Shaylee, the old Clean Singer for Mice and Men, now of Dayshell, on the podcast, but I just fucking did it out of nowhere. I'm going to keep this rolling. I'm going to keep this going. Give me a little bit of time. I'll get Alexis on Fire on there somehow.
We'll get you, Dal.
Fuck yeah.
Mike works for Dallas Green's record label.
I'll get you, Dal.
I like this guy. And now I'm expecting now, just kind of hearing all the stuff we talk about the hardcore scene and that split album you just showed me. Man, what's going to happen with you guys in the northern? Are you guys going to do a split thing with some hardcore band up there in Canada where you're going to get like some metalcore, hardcore mix that's coming in there? Are we going to get something like that? Are we going to get a potential like Alpha Wolf Holding Absence split EP with the northern and some crazy band in Toronto that's doing something absolutely wacky?
That'd be cool.
Man, I
I
wish.
wish.
And
Yeah.
I would do a
I
split with
mean-
Enoch, but
Yeah, I think we'd be too similar for a split, though. I think we'd need to go somewhere more like a band like Nightwell.
Judgment?
Or Judge, yeah. The Dudes in Judgment, or yeah, I don't know. It'd be a cool
that's a
idea.
cool
Or
idea.
like
I like that. I like that thought,
Single
though.
Wound. Single Wound.
So, wouldn't you?
Cool.
See, I mean, even with my idea, see, look at what happened. All of a sudden, you guys took it at a better idea. Find a band that's going to be a little bit
I
further
know.
away from you guys.
You got the
Run,
juices
run
flowing.
with it. And I was going to say, you know, there's also the idea of, okay, how's this going to work? Let's manifest it. No. I'm not going to say it. We're going to go all Shia LaBeouf and just go, just do it.
Do it.
Make your dreams come true. Your dreams don't work unless you do. So just do it.
Perfectly executed.
Perfect.
Shit, maybe on the next song you do, that's the fucking breakdown call out.
It's true though. If you ever hear a vocalist yelling that on stage and there's a pause, like just
You know what's happening.
expect all hell to break loose.
It's gonna be just something going super duper, like a build up, a great build up. All of a sudden, you're just gonna hear like, everything cut out, and just you're gonna hear Mike just yell, "Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Go!"
Now you got to do that, Mike.
I know. I'm already setting the idea. Pre-planning. in
Don't
between
make
you.
it. Don't make it that failed wall of death that Alpha Wolf. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
So funny.
I saw that. My first thought when I saw that was, "Thank God I was not a part of that show."
Oh my god. Fail.
I need to go watch this now because I saw it come up and I was like, I'll watch this later, and then I forgot about it till just now. So I guess I got some homework to do.
Yeah, because I've seen Alpha Wolf. I saw them open for Polaris and like Moss of Flames in 2022. Then they had a headlining run in 2022. I saw them, and then I just saw them at the aforementioned failure that was Blue Ridge Rockfest 2023. And every time we did a wall of death, we hit it exactly. We did not have what happened there, and I stand on that. And when I get to see them on that Motionless and White tour, we are not letting that happen.
Absolutely not. It'd be unacceptable.
I might have to retire from the mosh pits, from podcasting, everything if I fail at that. I'll say shit because usually if it's a song I'm really getting into, my mind's into, and I just say fuck it, I'll like take off like a quarter of a second early to make sure I'm the first one to hit somebody. Of course, that means the rest of the wall is coming on the other side, is coming down on me. But you know, just do it.
Just do it, man.
Let's do it.
But yeah, we really the only thing we've ever done collaboration wise is we did do an EDM remix of one of our songs from our Solstice album with our good buddy Adam Jazim, who is an EDM artist from Toronto as well. So we did an EDM remix to Umbra, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, a split that's got the gears turning now. A split EP.
Yeah, just a split EP. I mean, like what happened with Alpha Wolf and Holy Absence from last year? They did 4 songs. They did each band did one song on their own, and then they did 2 songs that were fully split together. And I mean, the thing just went off like it was nuts. And it's just somewhere you take a look at that, you do something like that, you never know what weird piece of collaboration you guys might come up with. You never know what happens with it. You know, maybe put a clean vocalist over something heavy and just let that style take over. You never know where that experimentation is going to bring you, but it's going to do 2 things in my opinion. One, it's going to grow all of you guys as musicians, as songwriters, and everything, because you're going to see a different way of writing with people. You're going to be able to see how these different things come together in their mind and potentially use some of those principles, put it in your music to the best of your ability, and then vice versa for them as well. Secondly, especially with a growing Canadian scene as well, especially a growing hardcore scene, if you guys bring a little more of the heavier tendencies in there, now you're going to be able to bring another band into a heavily emerging scene at the exact same time, even on a lighter standpoint. But it's something where now more of these scenes are having a chance to cross over together for even more support. I mean, hell, the hardcore scene is starting to get behind Holding Absence even. Holding Absence ain't hardcore, but after that split EP, everyone's like, God damn, they sound good.
Absolutely. Yeah, the mixed genre tours and shows and split albums are all really cool. It really can't hurt either band involved, right? It's just gonna, like you said, kind of like expand their fan base and the reach of their songs. And it's cool. Like I would even say that like some of our upcoming releases, like I don't know if I would say that we're blending genres, but our next release, I think, is gonna people in a good way.
Yeah. Well, you don't necessarily have to blend genres, but the more I've seen this, the more you experiment with a sound and more you try different things that you want to try, the better it ends up getting, because you try these different things, you explore these different ideas, you see how different principles and different concepts work within your style, within your songwriting, and it grows. On top of that, I take a look at the bands that are the biggest ones in the scene right now, the ones that I mentioned earlier, Bring Me the Horizon, Falling in Reverse, Bad Omen, Spirit Box, Sleep Token, I Prevail. They're mixing so many different things together. They're taking so many ideas. That ability to mix, try new things, and grow with them is I'm not saying it's what's popular, but it's what is growing bands, what's growing the scene today. But it's not something that's just like bands trying to capitalize on trends, because all of them are doing completely different things. All of them are experimenting with completely different sounds. It's like in music right now, especially in the rock and metal scene, it is the time to try weird different things and experiment with your sound and see what the heck you guys come up with, as long as that's what you guys want to do.
For sure. Oh yeah, definitely.
This next song we're going to be putting out was like the one I was most skeptical on that we did in Nashville, and it turned out to be like one of our favorite songs that we've done. So I'm like super hyped on how that turned out, and that's like, it's typically something we wouldn't do, and but like it is, but it isn't. So that's what's great about it. I don't know. I'm stoked.
Say, don't talk too much about it, Eric, because if you're going to be stoked on it, my nipples can only get so perky with excitement over this potential, weirdness, but how cool it could potentially come out to be. So, boop.
His Joe Rogan nipples are
baby.
The alien nips.
Ooh, big pepperoni style nips. Well, before we head out, guys, there's one question I'm starting to ask everybody, and I'm usually asking for 3, but I'm going to ask one, because there's 4 of you. I'm going to ask one from each of you guys, okay? So from each of you guys, can you give me one band, up-and-coming band that you guys like that we should all check out? I want you guys to give suggestions to everybody that's listening, because I'll post them up on Twitter and everything when the episode releases. So one band from each of you, what bands that are upcoming are you most excited about?
I'm gonna say these guys have been a favorite of mine for a couple of years now, but Colony Collapse, who I'm gonna go with. They just released a new song, and I think it was actually part of their re-release of their full length they did last year. But they released it as a deluxe. So I would definitely 100% Colony Collapse. They're super underrated, but if you like tons of chuggy, sometimes technical riffs, kind of like Protest the Hero, great band.
I've been vibing with a band called Throne lately. I don't know if you have heard of them, but they have a pretty sick. I think they've been around since like 2021, maybe. So like not super new, but they're kind of like a Kublai Khan type, kind of in that area of metal hardcore, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they have a great single called Gray Out. Awesome song. So would recommend.
I would recommend. We're interrupting each other.
That's
I'm
all
gonna
you.
go.
Oh,
So
sorry,
I-
Sorry, eh?
Oh, sorry. Hey.
Sorry.
Hey.
Oops.
So I would recommend a band called Auras. They just dropped a massive single. And their guitarist Josh just went from being a guitar player to their new screamer. So, and they got the drummer of Intervals, Nathan Bula, and honestly, they're a force that just can't be reckoned with. Like, there's something to be watching out for. Auras.
Hey man, a band that I've had a boner for since like 2017 that I'm finally gonna see. Void of Vision from Straya.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that band. Finally gonna see them October 7th with Invent Animate.
Oh,
Oh, you lucky man. So I've heard of Boy Division. I've seen him live before. Just enjoy, Jordan. Just enjoy.
I'm
I
stoked.
have heard of Colony Collapse. I believe I had him on the podcast 2 years ago, so might be time to bring him back over again. I have
Yeah.
recently heard of Throne over the past like month. So, okay, now we're starting to pick up some traction there. Have not heard of Auras though, so that's another one to check out right there.
Auras.
Tours
yeah.
are great.
Oh yeah, Ours is really good. We actually play with them from time to time in the area, so they're like perfect live, like to the recordings, like they're really good.
Stupid.
Their new bassist has a
Stupid,
guitar neck for me, that bastard.
Josh.
Well,
Give me my neck.
yeah.
And I know you probably have heard of Colony Collapse, or maybe even had them on the podcast, right?
Yeah, I believe I did 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
So I'm on that with you. Well, thanks for the suggestion, guys. And now, as we bring this episode to its conclusion, one thing I'd like to do is give you guys a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug what you're going to plug, promote what you're going to promote at the end of the podcast. So, my friends, the floor is yours.
Adam.
Aliens are real.
Yeah, aliens
are real.
real. We have a new song, Usurper. Check it out. It's on where you stream music. We also have a music video for it out on a YouTube channel called BVTV. Shout out to them for premiering it. We've got a ton of more music coming out soon. So, but yeah, until then, just keep jamming Usurper.
I like it. I like it a lot. So now it's time for this podcast with three specific things. First things first, when it comes to the Northern, when it comes to Usurper, when it comes to anything that you want to follow along with them, when it comes to social media, watch video on YouTube, make sure you go and buy stuff from them on their Bandcamp. Remember that one. On their Bandcamp, stream their music, support them anyway. Best way to do is go to description of the podcast where it says Find the Northern online. Links, labels for everything there. I'm doing all the research. I'm doing all the hard work. All you gotta do is click the link and it'll take you right there. So go and do that. Now it's time for number 2. Guys, every guest on the podcast that I enjoy having the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise that says, thank you for taking the time for being on the podcast, and I would like to continue to support the band in any other way that I can. And this is how it is done. It is not an if. If implies it might not happen, but it is a when. When implies that it's going to happen. We just don't have a day or time yet. When I get to see you guys perform live for the first time, I'm not going to do my Shia LaBeouf impersonation for you. I'm going to go all Liam Neeson from Taken on you. I will look for you. I will pursue you. I will find you. I will say hi and tell you that the first round is on me.
Hell yeah!
Please don't bankrupt
We
me.
have a little chant or call that all of us in the band do. It's simply just yeah.
Well, good. Then I'm
Yeah,
going to get
from
you
you.
guys, we'll get first rounds on me and be like, all right, cheers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marty going to be a part of this. Is awesome. Well, guys, as we bring this to its full conclusion, now it's time for number 3. I cannot end this by saying goodbye. That is way too final. I made you a promise, and this conversation was a hell of a lot of fun. So, would I like to see you guys back on the podcast in the future? Yeah. So, this cannot be goodbye, my friends. This is, I'll see you later.
Peace.
Woo! Well, folks, an interview with the guys from the Northern. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. I love this conversation. I absolutely did. And it kind of, I mean, I could talk about the whole entire thing with Usurper, but I want to jump on the growing Canadian hardcore scene. It goes hand in hand with what we did with Weightless. We talked about the Australian scene as well, which is why I brought it up in connection with it, because after everything Canada went through with the pandemic, with their restrictions, with their rules, with their regulations being much stricter and much longer than what we had to deal with here in the United States for the majority of our audience, it makes a lot of sense where a scene that has more of this hardcore sound, that more of this, against the system punk backing to it, really was the one that took off. And when you have more of this, growing collectiveness behind there, and you have that scene supporting each other and being more connected in that way, that is something when everything comes together, everything gets even better. And we're going to be seeing bands from Canada come out, and it's going to be one of those incredible things. We've seen so many great Australian bands come, and now maybe the next one is Canada with something like this. We're seeing France start to pick up on stuff like this as well, especially with metalcore. Canada might be the hardcore one as well. I'm really hoping it is, just given the fact that, any new music, any new scene that pops up that creates great music, we're gonna have to support. We should support it for the sole purpose that if we continue to do that, we're fostering more music, we're fostering a greater connection, and we're just helping everybody else out in that manner. I want to keep helping them out. I want to keep making it happen, and this is going to be the best way to do it, by doing stuff like this, by supporting these bands, and by talking about these scenes and getting them up and running. And Canada's doing with the hardcore scene, so let's support them. On that note, when it comes to Northern, best way to support them is going to the description of the podcast where it says find the Northern online. Links, labels for everything are going to be down there for you to check them out. Also, make sure you follow along with the Chord Progression Podcast. You can go to the links in the description to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you like this podcast, hit the like button right down here if you're on YouTube, or hit the like button on Spotify Podcasts or iHeartRadio, even Amazon as well. If you're not subscribed to the podcast on YouTube, the button is right down here to make sure you do that. Otherwise, hit follow on Spotify Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon. Continue to support the podcast. I want to thank you very much for it. Thank you guys in the Northern. And now, that's going to be it for you guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. That's the big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!